everyone. Welcome to another episode of Sideline Banter brought to you by Women of Fantasy Football. I am Sam Holt. And today, because poor Derek Tate has a cold, so let's wish him well, I am joined by my lovely dear friend, Kelly Singh, another lovely woman of fantasy football. Thank you so much for jumping on last minute. And again, we wish Tate well and hope that he gets better soon.
Get well, Tate.
He's going to really appreciate that. All right, guys, we're going to be talking about the AFC West, doing a deep dive, casual deep dive, into that division. If you have any questions, whether it's about any of those teams or anything else, please go ahead and throw them in the chat. Kelly and I will get to them as soon as we see them. Kelly, let's just jump right in because the news of this week pertains to a team in this division. It's kismet when news like this hits, when I've planned a show ahead of time. So we got to talk about Fernando Mendoza. It came out that he is not going to be attending the draft. Oh my God, this is crazy. It's really not. It's really not. It's really not a crazy thing. And it really just shows that it's a slow news week because every single app that I click and open up to it is like just showing that as the main headline. Do you agree that this is just not news? This is just noise?
I think after last season, that is just noise. But I feel like last season was the first time that we saw players choosing to stay home rather than go to the draft and have their moment. So I think I was clutching my pearls a little bit last season because what do you mean you don't want to have your moment? But this year, I like it. I like that he wants to be there with his family and experience everything that way.
I think, and maybe because I'm just remembering, the COVID year where everybody was remote and we were just used to seeing that. But to me, it's really not that big of a deal, especially given his situation where he knows he's going number one overall. I feel like for different players, it probably means different things to have that walk across the stage moment with Goodell, shaking his hand, which, I mean, I'm in very rare company in that I'm talking to someone that's also shaken Roger Goodell's hand. Just, going to throw that out there and give a quick flex to the lovely Kelly Singh for having a lovely convo with Goodell this past Media Week season. Was it amazing? Yeah. Did you feel like you had that was a welcome to the NFL moment for you when you shook his hand?
I really did, because then when we saw him later, it was like we were best friends.
I think that was the moment for me too, because I got to witness you having that little single Q&A with him. And then later when I saw the recognition on Roger Goodell's face, oh, this is Kelly. And he locked into the convo. I was like, oh shit. Yeah. Welcome to NFL, Kelly. This is a big deal. It was like walking across the stage and getting handed that hat, holding up your jersey.
Right. It was just like that. But had I known that we were already besties, I may not have worried about it so much. Just like our friend Mendoza. He knows he's going first.
Yeah, he's going
first. He wants
first.
to be there with his friends and family. He doesn't need to solidify it with a handshake.
No, I don't think so. And do you feel like there's any kind of correlation too? Because obviously the draft is now migrating across different venues. That could also kind of play into maybe some players going in and thinking okay, well, this is maybe further away from home, further away from family, or vice versa. This is closer to family, so people can go. Do you feel like that's also going to start to play a role in maybe some of these players' decisions?
I think it could. I also think it will play a role in a lot of media decisions too for some of these smaller outlets, especially like Women of Fantasy Football, where many of us live on the West. Heading all the way to Pittsburgh is not ideal, especially if players like Mendoza aren't going to be there.
Why do I want to go to the party if the main person's not going to be there? I don't want to go. It's like going to a wedding without a bride. This doesn't make sense.
Right?
It's a very sad party.
I think we'll see fewer media coverage and fewer players in attendance. But as somebody in the chat called out, Knucklebuster 420, exactly right. He just wants to spend that time with his family, and we're here for it.
Yeah, no, I'm here for it as well. That's why I think I just feel like it's no news, because it's so beyond saying now that he's going to become a Las Vegas Raider. So I'm going to shout out some people in the chat. Knucklebuster, thank you for tuning in. We've got Kim in the chat. Thank you for joining us. Joe, as always, be nice to my Chargers. Joe, I will try my best, but they're not giving me a lot to work with, so don't you worry about that. And then Mr. Scampers, of course, joining us. So appreciate you guys hopping in. But let's stay with the Raiders and just talk about their offseason. Before we get to some, juicy drama stuff, because that was very fun, had to play with your Ravens as well. They signed Kirk Cousins. And have you seen all the side-by-sides of Fernando Mendoza and Kirk Cousins? Because it's pretty laughable, the amount of similarities you just see, even in the way that they look.
Yeah, little father-son vibes happening there.
I know. I think
is this going to be like a Trading Spaces Freaky Friday situation?
Yes. Oh my gosh. There's going to be someone that does an AI video of Kirk Cousins and Fernando Mendoza doing like a Freaky Friday swap where it's like really there's no change, except for Kirk Cousins has several children and is married. So I feel like besides that, it's going to be just a very boring Freaky Friday movie. I think my favorite one, and I forget the outlet that put this video out. It was on the radio or something. And my favorite thing that this guy said was, I want to know and have a camera on how long the handshake is between these two quarterbacks, because neither one's going to be the first to break the handshake, and the volume of compliments back and forth of like, just so respect your game. No, I respect your game. I respect your values. I respect your values, your family. Like the back and forth of niceness between these two guys is going to be pretty laughable.
I think so too, and because their post-game interviews are so very similar as well. I mean, they're probably just gonna hit it off right away.
100%. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I guess my question is, how soon is too soon before you place the bet that Fernando Mendoza says you like that in an interview situation?
You like that?
Yeah.
Oh gosh, I bet you know what? I think he'll do it. Unironically, right away.
And then someone's gonna point it out, and he's just gonna be like, "Oh, that's so funny."
Yeah.
Oh my god, I'm excited to see that combo. But again, I think that it's an interesting pick to have Kirk Cousins join him, because obviously he's such a veteran, and everyone knows him for his personality, for his values. Yeah. He's kind of one of the most lovable quarterbacks in the league, I feel like, from a lot of different standpoints, not just, from a fan standpoint, from a player's standpoint. He just kind of wins over a locker room in a very genuine way, despite the fact that he's got all these, Cole's Cash jokes about him in terms of the dadness of him. It's kind of a brilliant move to pair him with Mendoza, just given their similarities personality-wise.
I think it's amazing. I think more teams should be doing this, having that whole mentor-mentee mentality. And we would see a lot more success from our rookies as they're going into the game.
Yeah, no, I think that's such a good point to bring up too. Just like, I feel like there's so much on the shoulders of these rookies to be successful immediately out the gate. But I feel like what's going to really help him is not only being surrounded by a cast of clearly quite viable offensive talents around him, but to have that kind of mentor-mentee where he's looking in a mirror, like a future self mirror of like, this is how Cousins has modeled his career, what he's built off of. And he's going to be able to have a lot of those notes, I think, in a way that's very unique to him and his values as well, and how to stay true to himself. Because say what you will about Kirk in any different way, and he's had plenty of fun little viral moments, wearing the chains, partying with his teammates. But Kirk has always just been Kirk. He's never deviated from that. And I would expect the same out of Fernando Mendoza, just given how cemented and those values and everything about him is.
For sure. I hope that he does really use this as an opportunity and take some notes, because did you happen to see what Kirk Cousins is going to be making and the amount of guaranteed money that he is still owed?
I know. I mean, I think Kirk Cousins' agent is playing chess when everyone else is playing checkers at this point.
For sure.
I mean, it's pretty brilliant that these deals where, one, teams get rid of players that they still have to pay, even though they're not going to be on the roster, is kind of beyond me. It's the opposite of girl math. I'm like, I want to see where my money's going. This isn't fun. I want a discount. I want to be on the other side where I'm signing these bets where I'm only having to pay a quarterback $1 million, $2 million a year, and someone else is picking up the rest of the price tag. But the way that it's rewritten, you're absolutely right. I think it's brilliant that he's been able to make this kind of money. This one in the chat from Joe, he has the greatest agent of all time, 100%. I think the only other agent I can think of that's like the most brilliant deal ever is that baseball player Bobby Bonilla, that has that Bobby Bonilla day every year where he makes like $1 million a year for like essentially the rest of his life. I think it's coming up actually. It's like in 2030 something that his contract will end. But I mean, how brilliant are some of these agents in terms of making sure that their guys get paid?
And it's not like he's a standout quarterback, but for many years he's consistent. Like he is the ham and cheese sandwich of the NFL. Mm-hmm. And fantasy wise, I don't know about you guys, but I was picking him up year after year after year until maybe 2 seasons ago.
Yeah.
Maybe when he went to Atlanta.
It kind of took a bit of a dip there, but I feel like it's been a bit of a mixed bag in terms of offensive direction. I think it's going to be a new year, obviously, given the switch in coaching staff there, and there's a lot of upside, I think, for that change. But just speaking to what he's doing here, and again, being this, franchise, like not having this pressure on Mendoza and having Cousins there, I think is going to be incredibly beneficial. Scamper's saying something similar in the chat here, learning how to be a pro without the pressure of having a franchise on your back. Oh yeah, after the longest season of his young career. Exactly. But like, just again, not having the pressure there. And then I just want to post this other one from Scampers because I think it's a brilliant idea. If Hard Knocks can set this up, they're going to live together, right? This from Scampers. I do think that would be the next level. They've got Hard Knocks training camp. They've got Hard Knocks in season. They've got the lead up to the playoffs. We're missing out on the roommates of the league, and I would like to see some level of that. There's 1,000 other reality shows out there. Give me this show. I would tune in for this show 100%.
I mean, all I can think of is the line from Step Brothers where he's like, "There's so much room for activities."
I need photos of them in plaid and looking off into the distance. Like, that's what I need. I mean, there's been plenty of AI generated ones, but I think that they're when they have their player day where they're doing all the photos for media, they absolutely need to get us as many possible photos of the two of them together. We won't settle for anything else.
Wait, before we move on, you had said something about how Mendoza will have like some great receivers, some great talent.
Yes.
So do we think that the Raiders have been quietly building and just waiting for a QB? Or are we getting a little too excited?
It's kind of one of those, is it so dumb it could just work kind of a situation where I feel like they've been building, but it hasn't been without ups and downs.
Yeah.
They definitely have, I think, a roster that's kind of exciting to look at. And I think depending on how the draft goes and if additional moves are made, I do believe there's going to be a couple more. This could be a really fun roster. Again, you've got Ashton Genty, who, rookie, still so much to build on, a lot of upside because of his huge playability, and his ability to break tackles as a runner is amazing. Then you look at someone like Brock Bowers, who is also incredibly talented. The wide receivers, they need the most work, and that's where I feel like they can do some interesting things in the draft and maybe pick up some additional players. But they also, if they're going to get their franchise QB now, they have the ability to trade away some 2027 very valuable picks, because there's going to be a lot of heavy quarterback talent next year, that they could end up getting some decent wide receivers in terms of a trade. So I'm really curious to see how that moves. Oh, and then of course we got to talk about this. I think that you asked me about this offense because you didn't want to talk about what happened with the Raiders or the Ravens. just, I mean, not to call you, but I see you and I know how you feel. But they did take your Tyler Linderbaum and at center.
Yeah.
A really fantastic piece as well. I think when you talk about building this in a clever way, there's a lot of talent here, and especially little bits and pieces that they added on defense as well, that I think make it very arguably fun for the Raiders going into this season. And now we talk about how sad you are about Maxx Crosby not being with the Ravens.
There's quite a bit of sadness around this.
Yes.
If you are not familiar with my game, this household is divided between Ravens and Cardinals, except I have like a super soft spot for Mark Andrews.
Yes, you do.
Yes, and I like the color purple.
You do.
I am sad because not only we did not want to lose Linderbaum, but there's only so much money to go around on a very expensive roster like the Ravens seem to manage to get. And then the whole Maxx Crosby thing actually is super confusing to me in the sense of it felt like he wanted to get out of there.
Yeah.
And then when he did get out of there, it was like he didn't want to get out of there.
Well, it just also felt like such quick buyer's remorse from the Ravens side, where they had other deals that they were probably still working on. They maybe assumed they weren't going to be able to make the Trey Hendrickson move. And then when they were able to start hearing like the yeses move for that, they were like, oh no, we just lost a bunch of picks. And we really do need to rebuild. So
the Ravens actually don't even give up picks like that. So it was
our division, no.
Yeah.
AFC North does not give up picks like that. Not easily, for sure. So that was also quite wild.
I mean, it is fair to say that it's just because he didn't get through the physical and they
but he was never going to pass the physical. He just had surgery.
Right. But it's like are they in such a win now mentality? But what we were hearing from friends in Baltimore was that the idea was to actually have both Hendrickson and Maxx Crosby.
That sounds like someone didn't do, like when you go to a board meeting and you're doing, like we're both in different levels of marketing products. It's like when someone comes to the meeting and you expect them to be able to answer every budgetary question for a campaign. And you're like, all right, so we've already spent this. We've got product lined up and we want to make sure we have enough for ads. We have enough for ads, right? And the person is not paying attention and they're playing Candy Crush on their phone. And they're like, yeah, we have enough for ads. And then by the end of the meeting, they're like, wait, did we cover ads? And they're like, we just asked you about that. And you said we were good. And like, oh, that's what we were talking about? Yeah, we don't have money for that. And then you're like, cool, we have to redo this entire meeting because you didn't say you weren't paying attention. That's what it feels like what happened.
I agree. It definitely sounds like there were missteps made, and the whole idea of not passing the physical gave them a convenient out.
It was a convenient out.
It was very transparent.
It was clearly an error on their part, and it just looked like such bad buyer's remorse. I mean, it's why we keep our receipts. When I go shopping and I buy something that I shouldn't, I save that receipt. I save the box. I don't take that tag off for a while. I have to stare at that thing in my house and be like, okay, are we doing this? Are we doing this? And then I will change my mind, rarely. But I will sometimes change my mind and I will take it back. And that's what they did. But they didn't. It was like they even looked at, and because this was something that was pretty funny or kind of sad, depending on how you look at it, that Maxx Crosby went on a podcast and he was talking about the experience. And he said that the car ride from the airport to the facility was 2 hours. He was like, really? So did they also get that Uber bill and they were like, shit, we're really spending money we don't have here?
Maybe, but that really was...
That was a bad look. Come on.
I think it was blown out of proportion because there is nowhere to get fast.
Chopper him in. He's Maxx freaking Crosby. Like, this is ridiculous.
I guess they could have choppered him in. But as far as traffic from either of the local airports, it takes about 2 hours. I know from very personal experience.
Scampers with this. After a commercial flight. Was it a commercial flight?
I heard it was a commercial flight.
I heard it was too. I'm sorry, but when you pull a player of this caliber that's going to be worth this much, at that point, isn't it kind of a write-off to like do the private flight to get the chopper. Like, this was a business expense. I know that there's plenty of things that people write off on their taxes that are much worse than just that. So, like, there's got to be a way they could have afforded this.
I think the problem, not a problem, but some of the comments I was seeing were more like, couldn't they have flown him into a closer airport? No, they're both equidistant. They both take 2 hours to get anywhere.
Get to the chopper.
The answer would be no. He wouldn't need a chopper to have gotten there any faster. I hope that puts that to bed.
We're just here solving all the problems for everybody. It's fine. All right. But, I mean, that was beyond weird. I think my takeaway from looking at so far, the offseason moves of the Raiders, seeing them sign Kirk Cousins, knowing they're going to take Fernando Mendoza, them being okay with keeping Maxx Crosby. And it seems like whatever was the smoke that was the fire to make Crosby want to leave, after the other moves that this team has made and them saying, like, if you want to stay, this is what we've been building. And he's like, yeah, I want to stay. Yeah. Like, to me, when you go through a rough patch and, you know, relationships, friendships go through rough patches, if you're able to go through something that is, you know, difficult on both ends and you can meet in the middle and shake hands, it makes that relationship stronger.
For sure. And I think that's why we didn't see more of a to-do about the whole situation, because things were a little hinky on his side too, I think.
Yeah, exactly. So it definitely feels like, you know, you could say there was egg on both their faces in this situation or in this fight. And then they just sat back and said, you know what, we're going to be better off together. Yeah. Look at what we're building up for this season. And we're going to start comparing the rest of the teams in this division as well. Because when you stack this up, this does feel like it could be a division that's totally up for grabs. So with that being said, I do feel like we should move on to the Broncos, another team that has done some different signings or not enough signings, depending on your camp. But the Broncos obviously made a big playoff run. They looked really good. Sean Payton's team that he has been constructing looked good. They looked viable. They looked ready. They fell short, obviously. And I do feel like there's a lot of things they need to continue to address, and I'm hoping to see some moves again in the draft and maybe some additional trades. But they did address the wide receiver position, which I think was a really big gap in signing Jaylen Waddle from the Miami Dolphins, which we already covered the Dolphins, so we don't have to talk about that dumpster fire. But Jaylen Waddle has been saved. He is on a team that needs a talent like him and is going to use him immediately. So I want to know from you, what was your immediate fantasy lens reaction when you saw Waddle going to the Broncos?
I was like, oh my gosh, poor Florida. Like, just like, what is happening in Miami? What are they going to do? That was my first immediate reaction, actually.
I know. It's because you're a considerate and thoughtful person who shares, like, empathy and emotions with others. So you're like, oh no.
Yes. I was feeling like, oh no, if I was a Miami fan, I'd be so sad right now.
Yeah, sorry, Kim. You don't have to go back and re-listen to that episode if you don't want to. She says, thank you for not talking about my Dolphins. Yeah, we already did it. And to be fair, it was brief. But let's continue talking about the Broncos. I think this is a great move. So they acquire Waddle from the Dolphins for a 2026 first-round pick, a third-round pick, and a pick swap. Yeah. Again, for a team that needs to do a lot of rebuilding, really smart to go ahead and collect those picks on Miami's part. But in terms of what Waddle does for this offense, when you compare what the rest of the receiving room was doing this offseason, your leader in receptions was Courtland Sutton with just over 1,000 receiving yards and 7 touchdowns. Everything else kind of trickles down in a way that makes you not so excited fantasy-wise. But when you look at the stats for Bo Nix in terms of where he was in the league, he was 8th in the league in passing yards this season. First in passing attempts. By comparison, that completion percentage needs some work, as he was 25th. But when you have someone like Jaylen Waddle who can make catches out of anything, this is a great ad.
I agree. I think that Bo Nix is an amazing talent, especially for fantasy football. If you're trying to find a quarterback that you might be able to get a little bit later rounds, but is going to consistently score points, I really like Bo Nix, and giving him more people to throw to is the best idea ever.
Absolutely. He needs that. I mean, the thing is, he's got the volume in the tank. He's capable of giving us all that volume. And I think that's also kind of what's most exciting about seeing what he can do with another year in this offense and in this scheme. And it's going to be a very similar looking team because one of the notes that I have here per ESPN's Jeff Legwold, Sean Payton emphasized that after the Broncos evaluated the free agency class, they decided it was in the team's best interest to re-sign 17 of their own players. J.K. Dobbins being one of those that they wanted to re-sign. So if the only addition that they decided to make in free agency was Waddle, this is a team that's like, we've got a lot of the parts. And now we have another big one.
I feel like they've had a lot of the parts for the last 2 seasons. And it's really time to do something with that, you know?
Yeah, no, it is. With having traded away some picks, I'm really curious to see how they round this out in the draft. But honestly, I'm just really excited for targeting me some Jaylen Waddle in my drafts this season.
Mm-hmm. And I still like J.K. Dobbins as a super, like a late round pick because just as Jaylen Waddle is great at making catch on anything, I always felt like J.K. Dobbins, healthy, is one of those players that just manages to get through the tightest spots that makes that yardage. He just has to be healthy. That's the problem.
That is the biggest problem with him. So hopefully they can have a healthy season out of him. But I think the other thing with him and with Nix, I'm really curious to see how they address the rushing and they keep the workload manageable for Dobbins because of his injury history. You look at Nix's other stats in terms of rushing. He had 83 carries, 356 rushing yards, and 5 rushing touchdowns. There's a lot that you love about Nix in fantasy for that rushing upside. We love it. Yeah. But there's a lot that you need to have a healthy roster going into the playoffs, which I think is kind of a joke because no team is healthy going into the playoffs with 17 games under their belt. Especially in all the interviews going this playoff season, you know, how are you feeling about the health of your team? And every coach is like, I don't have a single healthy player on my roster right now.
Right.
But when you have a mobile quarterback, how do you balance that out? How do you mitigate that risk for your quarterback?
I mean, maybe they should get on the phone with the Ravens. Find out how they handle it.
They do. There's a way to balance this out. And obviously, you know, Bo Nix is so young and there's so much you can, you know, still mold about his game to adjust him to make sure he's always protecting himself. And I think that he's done a pretty good job of that, obviously getting to play every game this season, getting hurt at the very last minute. But, you know, this is just one of those things where I think one more year with this roster is going to say a lot, not just about Sean Payton and his ability to construct a team, bend it to his will, but to see how Bo Nix can grow, especially with the caliber receiver that you have in Waddle.
For sure. And now that you've talked through all of that, Waddle very well could be the solution for maybe keeping Bo Nix from running too many yards and getting that potential injury, and also mitigating the injury risk to Dobbins.
Yeah, no, I mean, the only way to mitigate risk is to not have it on the shoulders of one single player, which is why you need a more balanced roster overall. We're going to talk about the Chiefs in just a second, who's a team that definitely needed to balance out different positions going into this 2026 season. But I'm really curious, how do you feel about Evan Engram? Because I feel like he was touted last offseason as being a big tight end ad. And in terms of his overall performance, not exactly what we're looking for, especially when it's coming to tight end premium leagues.
For sure. I mean, I was on board with that train, and I definitely left the station disappointed. But I don't know that he's going to do any better, honestly. I think what happens is somebody gets a hold of something and then it runs like wildfire. And you know me, I'm going to find all the reasons to why it would happen.
Because you're a positive person.
Positivity. And then it's like, shoo, I missed all the red flags, every single one of them.
Okay, well, one of us does better with red flags than another.
Yes.
You are happily married and you have 2 lovely daughters. I have a cat. So let's talk about the Chiefs and move on from the Broncos. But again, I think just to sum it up, I am excited for the Broncos this offseason. Did you have any final thoughts on them before we jump to the Chiefs?
I was just seeing some of the comments. Wendy, we already talked about the Raiders. We think that Kirk is going to be a great father figure. So rewind, watch the start of the show where we kick off with the Raiders. And then what was that?
No, as I say, actually, you say father figure. I feel like I could make a Taylor Swift level playlist for this combo of Kirk Cousins and Fernando Mendoza, father figure being one of them.
I mean, I'm older, and my mind goes to George Michael, father figure.
Well, she sampled off George Michael, so she did, and so there's a co-song authorship with George Michael for that song because Taylor always credits other artists.
She does. Then the other one was, does Waddle really help Knicks that much? I think he really does. He really does, just for the reasons that we kind of mentioned, even if it's only to help mitigate some of that ground running injury for him or for Dobbins, who happens to be lead back. So,
absolutely. And I think the thing is, with a mobile quarterback like Bo Nix, to your question, Joe, how much does this really help him? It helps open him up because, I'm sorry, but with the speed that Waddle has, if you're a defense and you're scheming up to go against Waddle every game, you could argue that he's going to have maybe some double team coverage on him. He's going to be seeing a lot of looks. You're going to start to open up the field when you've got him out there in a way that's going to make Bo Nix even more valuable, because if you start to get that separation, he's going to have a lot more ability to run. But then vice versa, you can't leave that door open, so you got to find balance. And again, Waddle's one of his best things is his ability to get space against a defender and ability to make a catch out of literally anything. I mean, cue most catches he had off Tua Tagovailoa.
Right.
Yeah. So kind of love it. I love this from Skippers. Cats in the Cradle. Yeah, also a good song.
Yeah. Except hopefully Kirk doesn't give him the brush off. I mean,
yeah. Hello? No, I'm sure he won't. No, it's Kirk Cousins. He would never. Are you kidding? No, he's too much of Scampers saying, you'll find your green flag. Kirk Cousins is our green flag. He's just a walking green flag. Yeah.
He is.
In my life, I don't know. We'll figure it out. But we talked about Swifties. Travis Kelce's returning to the Chiefs. News. Kind of. I mean, we kind of saw that coming. I can't imagine going into a 14th season that he would move away from something. He's got a steakhouse in Kansas City, guys. Like, he's staying as long as the checks keep clearing and he keeps getting catches. I mean, that was very not exciting. But how do you value, again, if you guys don't follow Kelly Singh for anything else, her tight end knowledge and how she plays the tight end premium is something to be admired. So, Kelly, how do you value Travis Kelce? Because every year there's moments where it's like he keeps dropping, but then he pops back up in terms of, draft value. This is another year of that.
I'm probably going to get a lot of hate for this.
Ooh, I'm ready. I'm going to drink my rosé while you say it.
What I am thinking, what I am seeing, I mean, if you watched any of the Chiefs games last year, it felt like Kelce came in as, I don't want to say garbage time, but it was like, okay, we've done everything else. Now let's do this. It doesn't feel like he has a feature role anymore, even though he's constantly on the field. Yeah. He is not Mahomes' target anymore. And I don't have any opinion on why or why not, but what I do see is a player that is, while he's on the field, he's getting fewer targets, and last year was a prime example.
I think that what emphasizes that feeling is the low touchdowns. It's the low yardage. Because technically,
low fantasy points.
Because technically, Kelly, he was the leading receiver for the Chiefs. Technically. And I feel like it needs an asterisk because the Chiefs did not look like themselves last year. It's like one of those Snickers commercials where it's like, you look hungry. No one was eating their Snickers. No one looked like themselves.
Exactly. But the most targets, I think, because everything else was so spread
Everything
out.
else was so spread out. I think it also had a lot to do with the fact that that running game struggled immensely. When you're going back, and this kind of feels like, again, I make a lot of dating analogies on this show because I feel like they're applicable, but it felt like a backslide for the Chiefs to be relying so much on Kareem Hunt in the running game. It's like, guys, what are we doing? Like, why are we doing this? So I do feel like their signing of Kenneth Walker, Super Bowl MVP, let's call him by his full name, Super Bowl MVP Kenneth Walker III, to a 3-year deal worth $43.5 million, 28.7 fully guaranteed, is going to be a huge add for them because I think that the lack of running game really put a damper on that offense.
Yeah, 100%. I'm so distracted with the chat. I actually should probably close it because I keep looking at it.
I'll go back to it.
And we're drinking, and I'm like, can you repeat the question?
Cheers. Okay. Let me just get to the chat because Scampers is in here just causing all kinds of chaos, and we love him for it. Scampers in here saying, no punishment for Rasheed and Kenneth Walker III equals better offense. I think this might be a comeback F-it year for Travis. I kind of agree. This is also a year where he's going to come into the season a married man. We know that the wedding's happening. As a Swiftie, it's happening. And if you want to believe the rumors, it'll be June 13th when they're getting married. But I also love to lean into the idea that happy players play better. This is a man very much in love, and he's absolutely crushing it.
Me right now. But I was going to
You lived with me for like over a year, so of course it's rubbed off.
Oh, it's rubbing off. Which is fine. Because I am a delight. Anyway.
Yes, you are.
What I was going to say.
Oh my gosh, Joe's saying this. Typically gain weight after getting married, though. Okay, but he's going to go from getting married to the honeymoon to training camp. And I'm sorry, but he's marrying Taylor Swift. This man has a lot to keep up with. So I don't feel like he's, taking a dive there. Although apparently she does make amazing sourdough bread. It's a lot of carbs. It is also a big man to keep, fed. I think it trades off and balances it out.
True. But I think the opposite. I think he's going to be like, I don't need to do this. I like to do it, but I don't need to do it. So I'm here. I feel like it's going to be a lot like last year. Like, I'm here. I'm your emotional support receiver.
I'm your emotional support, Travis.
Mm-hmm. I would love to buy into the whole, like, fuck it, come back. But I just don't. I don't see that. I see it more as just, I'm here.
Yeah. No, I don't know. I feel like you can't.
What is his sign?
What's his sign? I think he's a Libra, but you can Google it.
All right.
Because I know Taylor's a Sagittarius. Not that I'm really showing my Swiftie side right here. Just in the chat saying he was thick last year. Scamper saying the same thing. Literally a perfect analogy, Helly. You're just crushing it. And Joseph is a Scorpio. Good to know. Everyone, sign off on your signs in the chat.
As well.
There you go. That's why you guys see eye to eye.
Supposed to be. I'm just going to throw this out there. It's supposed to be the end of a painful drought of carrying everybody's burdens for Scorpios for years. And this moment is our moment. So buckle up.
Pausing on the fantasy analysis to bring you your, what's it called, horoscope?
Your horoscope. Okay, Travis Kelce is a Libra.
Yeah, so he's just happy to be here. Good
Highly
friend.
compatible with Taylor Swift's Sagittarius sun.
I know. I have yet to find myself a Libra. I will be honest. But
I was just wondering if he was a Scorpio, then I might change my tune because we're supposed to have several months of good happenings, Scorpio.
I'll bet for you. All right, let's finish talking about the Chiefs with talking about Mahomes. Obviously, he dealt with a brutal injury this season. In terms of backing him up going into this next year, it'll be Justin Fields. I'm really curious to see how Mahomes tracks on this recovery this offseason because I think we're already seeing, some of those in the gym videos and starting to get his mobility back. And we, of course, have seen him in, plenty of documentaries. Again, understanding his strength training and what he does to get ready for a season. However, it did feel like, to your point, there was a lot of just mismatch, them not looking like themselves last year. There was a lot of games where Mahomes put the game on his back and they just could not get the win. I'm very curious to see what he does to, improve going into this next season. But because I feel like the Chiefs kind of plateaued and let themselves just be, for lack of a better word, mid last year and thought they could get away with it. And they can't, especially when the rest of the teams, especially in their division, are finding so many ways to elevate their game and to improve across multiple things. Because the Chargers looked better. The Broncos made a huge playoff run. Like, this was a situation. Chiefs didn't make the playoffs.
Right.
That is not their normal as of recent history. So I do feel like a lot of this goes back to Mahomes and says, what are you going to do to continue to reinvent your game? Because you can't be a great, you can't get the Brady, you can't get the GOAT card until you've been knocked down and you come back. So how does he come back from this?
Yeah, he definitely needs to show something. It's no coincidence, I think, that they brought Justin Fields over there to back him up. He's young. He needs tutelage. Mahomes can tutel. But he has to show something, and maybe they're trying to light a little fire. Who knows? I mean, the Chiefs are it. Look, on paper, people don't get mad. They're still the best team, I think, in this division. But they're not the safe bet anymore.
No, they are definitely no longer the safe bet. And I feel like, especially in the last couple of years, it feels like there's a lot of animosity between divisions in terms of trying to knock each other down. And teams actually saying, F them picks, let's go and make a team and find ways to win. This is definitely a division that is going to be completely open until they can remedy this.
Yep.
I will say that they have also brought back Eric Bieniemy, an offensive coordinator. That was a big part of a lot of those big numbers and big stats that we saw from Mahomes in years past. So I do feel like you're going to hear a lot of that going into this offseason from a fantasy perspective, that this offense should be reinvigorated. They should be getting back to a lot more high volume, and we should be seeing more passes out of Mahomes, plus just more creative plays, just because you're bringing back an incredible coach like Bieniemy. And even Travis mentioned on the podcast that he was excited coming into this next season because they brought Bieniemy back. So I'm really curious to see what that does for this entire offense. And again, I do feel like Kenneth Walker is going to be a huge add if he stays healthy.
Yeah, that's always key. If we're going to throw out like, he's got that dog in him this year. If I was going to pick a player for that, I think it would be Mahomes. He has a lot to lose if this season stinks, I think. Even if it's just face. Like, he has to save face. That's the bottom line. So that's a player that I would vote for that's like, I'm going to go lights out.
Yeah, that if you want to draft a player this offseason, going into your drafts, you want to put someone on a post-it that's like, this is someone that has everything on the line. I definitely agree. I feel like this is not going to be an offseason where I discount Mahomes. Last year, I was completely out on him.
I was out too.
And I feel like it ended up kind of working out a little bit that way, though he had some, of course, moments because they were playing from behind for so much. However, this is not going to be one of those off seasons. You're going to hear it from me now, and I will say it till, we kick off, this season. I do feel like there is going to be a lot on Mahomes' shoulders because you say he needs to save face. He is the face of the Kansas City Chiefs. He has the big contract. They have invested everything. He's invested everything there for the city, for the community. He has to rein this back. There is a lot that he needs to do to fix these things.
100%.
Scampers, you maniac. Scampers in the chat saying, it all fell apart when he cut the mullet fro. You got to
kind of did.
Bring it back. I would argue that once Kelce started going into training camp with these mustaches, things dropped off. So, bring back the full beard all season long, Travis. Mahomes, fix that haircut. Let's get this fantasy value right back where it needs to be. All right. Saving a team for last. I'm not going to say best for last because we're about to talk about the Chargers. And my notes are limited, to say the least, in terms of offseason.
I had another note that I didn't throw in there. I mean, not about not about the previous team.
Okay,
We're
about Chargers.
Chargers. I had an extra note about the
Do
Chargers.
we have to? Sorry, Joe. We
Sam,
do.
I want to know because I want to know. Is Tomlinson making an underrated impact? Dalvin Tomlinson, like that's my big question. People, are we sleeping on that?
We might be. The thing is with the Chargers, I think there was a lot of different places where they needed to make adjustments and they need to fix this offseason. Obviously, like every other team, everyone needs to get healthy. But I also feel like every team needs to address defense in the offseason and find ways to fill in gaps. And he's definitely a big gap fill. I'm guessing that you feel the same way.
No, I really do. And I think that the majority of their important key additions are in those specialty areas, especially, the O-line has an upgrade as well. I'm losing my words because things are kicking in. But what I want to say is the Chargers may not have had – sorry. The Chargers
Sorry.
The Chargers may not have gone like, call the paparazzi. We're going to, make a big splash.
Make big flashy signings, yes.
It is functional. Everything they did was just functional. It is like, the big comfy couch. That's what it was. It's not leather. It's not, it doesn't have that fresh new couch smell. But it's comfortable and it gets the job done and it's sturdy.
Yes, absolutely. Scamper's saying here, getting 2 all-pro caliber tackles back is again huge, in addition to Tomlinson for sure. But sadly, Joe, and I agree with you here, saying just our interior is meh. Yeah, meh.
That's really what I was just taking a look at some of my notes. So Cole Strange, that's an upgrade for them, and that was a signing. So I think that's important. And then also, totally gonna ruin his name, but they have a new center, Tyler Biadasz. I can't say
Biadasz.
But
Biadasz?
Word on the street is that he's a good one.
He's a good one.
So they're trying to beef up that interior, as you mentioned, but Dalvin Tomlinson, that's like a big upgrade too.
Definitely. And you have to hope that with these additional kind of cozy, comfy ads, things to just pad up. Again, to your point, we haven't seen something that's rolling out the red carpet necessarily, the big flashy, they signed so-and-so. But you need to shore up all of these things in order to have your offense succeed because, Marion Hampton getting injured, that was absolutely brutal to start the season too. So getting him back healthy is going to be huge. Ladd McConkey obviously had some great moments this season, but having a consistent wide receiver 2, Quentin Johnston had 3-4 weeks where it was just like, he is who we thought he was, and then immediately fell off a cliff. And then Oronde Gadsden just being, again, to your love of tight ends, I'm sure that you ended up making a few pickups of him going into the season, but there was no consistency in that second wide receiver, or second receiver, I should say, including the tight ends here, for them to hang their hat on. And then again, with Hampton coming back from injury and not being 100%, getting a couple plays in here and there, they didn't have the tread on the tires to keep up all season.
Yeah. You said it. You said it all. That's a great take. But I'm wondering,
done. We'll sign off.
Goodbye. Having said all of that, if the Chargers fail again this year, is this a coaching issue? Is this maybe we don't have the right personalities of players together?
I think it becomes a GM issue more so than a Harbaugh issue because he's so new still and he's only working with obviously what he's being given. And if there's any miscommunication or any level of, well, you're not giving me the pieces I'm asking for, I think there could be a lot of said for that argument. Then I think this would be more of a GM issue addressing it in next season that I would forecast in terms of big moves rather than a coaching issue. But I mean, and I'll just leave this to Joe, our resident fan here, saying, as long as the Spanos own the Chargers, we will always fail. Sometimes it's a top down, and then again, just to save themselves, it would likely be, I could see a coaching shift, but it just doesn't make sense to move on from Harbaugh when you have such clear talent, but you kind of get, stub your toe early with, again, so many injuries. Joe Alt being hurt was a big hit for them as well, so getting him back healthy is going to be huge. Yeah, I definitely feel like they've got a lot to address. I'll get to all of Joe's comments here because he is our Chargers fan in the chat, so I want to make sure that we get these here for you, Joe. Saying, we are going to need to run some outside runs and swing out Hampton to get him out in space. Agreed with that. It definitely felt like they were treating him as a bit of a one-trick pony this season, but I feel like they kind of did that because of the injury situation, and they weren't trying to make him, uncomfortable in space. And then this one again from Joe. I still don't and never will trust Quentin Johnston. Gadsden would have been great if our O-line wasn't horrible. We had to take him out to put him in blocking. Yeah, that's why he ended up disappearing.
Yeah.
Fantastic note there too, because it just felt like they kept getting in their own way all year. And so I want better for them, if nothing else, because it's more fun when we obviously see every team succeed. But with the Raiders doing what they've done, just to kind of bring it back around, doing what they've done this offseason to rebuild, and obviously being front-loaded, knowing that they're going to be getting Fernando Mendoza. They've got him backed up by Kirk Cousins. They've got a great look going into this season, knowing that the Chiefs have addressed a big issue they had last year, grabbing Kenneth Walker. And then I'm missing another team. What the fuck is the other team?
Chiefs.
Oh, the Broncos. Yeah. The Broncos have done a ton, obviously re-signing a lot of their players from last year, but then going out and grabbing Jaylen Waddle, who's going to be, I think, a really big key player for them. The Chargers have a lot they need to prove because this is a division that's not resting.
I think as a team, the Chargers have the most to prove. And we already touched on quarterbacks. I think Mahomes has the most to prove. Herbert doesn't have to prove anything except
because he's going to get paid anyways.
He's probably in my eyes, I think he may be the best quarterback in this batch. But they just can't get it together as a team, where on the other hand, you have teams like the Chiefs and you have Mahomes, and you're supposed to all be elite, but he's just not doing it. So he is the most to show there. I think the Broncos are kind of like the same. I mean, they made some upgrades. They're making some changes. They're still a talented team. And then you have the Raiders, which is a total wild card situation. If quarterback succeeds, they're going to do well. If it completely flops, they're going to have another bad season.
Yeah, 100%. And the Diamond joining the chat. Raiders. We covered them right out the gate. So if you missed it, please go back after this episode closes and check that out, because we did give the Raiders their flowers and their love, and I hope that we did you proud as a Raider fan there. And this last note I think is perfect from Joe, saying, it's more fun when you have the team with the best jersey to do good. Yeah. It's more fun. Definitely more fun. Well, Kelly, thank you so much for jumping in short notice to help me out this week. Obviously, guys, if you were missing Tate, he has a fever, so wish him well, and I hope that he feels better soon. But yeah, we covered all of the lovely AFC West. We'll be going south next week and finishing on AFC North in time for the draft, which sadly, Women of Fantasy Football will not be attending. However, we will definitely cover it, so we'll make sure that we bring you guys all the analysis we can. Kelly, do you have anything you want to shout out to make sure that those that are tuning in live watching can follow that you're putting out there? You do so many amazing things.
You can follow me on the app formerly known as Twitter at Kelly and Phoenix. Or if you're at the good place, Blue Sky, it's also Kelly and Phoenix. But I think while we have this little platform, I was just laid off as part of a workforce reduction. If you happen to know of any awesome companies hiring marketing director and above experienced people, please hit me up, please.
Yes, absolutely, because you're brilliant with marketing. You absolutely need to get
You're
back
brilliant.
You need to get back in on the sports side, absolutely, when it comes to marketing. So
I know I miss
it's
it
just
so
too
much
much fun. It is the fun stuff. All right, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Like we said, make sure you like, subscribe, follow everything on Women of Fantasy Football so you don't miss out on any of the amazing content that we're here to provide. And I will see you next week as we cover the AFC South. Love y'all and have a wonderful week.